Like any genre, horror has its standout examples, media touted as the best pieces of the horror genre out there. For movies, you have a wide selection of the greats that are constantly pushing the medium. For books, you probably got something, I don't know, I can't read. For video games, there is an added interactive factor, as you can't just cover your eyes and wait for the scary scene to be over. You have to act, make sure that the character you play as doesn't get a game over screen. You have classic games like Outlast, Resident Evil, Dead Space, and Silent Hill, of course. Usually, people talk greatly about the second game and the third game as the best horror games ever. But all series have to start somewhere. Like most great things, Silent Hill began production 3 years before the release of the game. Production was taken to Team Silent at Konami. This, of course, was when Konami was still a company, and not some stain on human society. Team Silent composed of people from Konami who were on their way out of the company. If you guys know about how DreamWorks worked on the first Trek movie, exactly like that. By this time, the first Resident Evil, or Biohazard depending on where you live, had already been released and was huge, globally praised. Most of the horror came from how the enemies looked and how the camera made it so that you weren't able to see enemies around corners. A lot of the aspects of Resident Evil inspired the development of Silent Hill, even the fact that Resident Evil takes place in America. Team Silent especially loved that part. Fun fact time! Takeyoshi Sato was working on the CGI cutscenes of the game when Konami was planning on assigning a supervisor to the CGI cutscenes that would basically take all of Sato's credit. In retaliation to this, Takeyoshi Sato decided to then slightly tweak his work schedule and not require a CGI supervisor. By this, I mean that he decided to be the sole worker on the CGI on Silent Hill. This spanned over the course of 2.5 years and consisted of Sato sleeping in the office so that he would be able to get more time in on this project. Sato's love and hard work towards Silent Hill is shown through the cutscenes, which are surprisingly able to run on a PlayStation 1. In fact, a ton of people on Team Silent went into Silent Hill with the same attitude of putting their soul into their work. This can be seen as commendable, or another reason why Konami is shite. Okay, now let's start up the game and play it. Oh, fuck, dude, this shit's on tank controls. Man, come on! So, you may be wondering, Big Dia, what are tank controls and why are they the worst thing since lithium mining? Well, I'm glad you asked, little guy. Tank controls are where if you press forward on the joystick, the character you play as will go forward from where they are facing, instead of going forward from where the camera is facing. This stinks, especially during a horror game, because when you're trying to get away from man-made horrors, you just get stuck in a corner getting stabbed in the shins by these little stupid fuckers. I know the camera in Silent Hill is intentional so that you can't really see what is around corners, but this isn't helped by these stupid controls. The guy you play as is Harry Mason, and as stated, he controls like some ass, but he also has some really cool movement shortcuts. If you press both bumpers, he quickly turns. If you hold back the joystick and press X or square, Harry will do a little jump backwards, which is not helpful at all, but really funny. It does beat his normal ass walk backwards. Enough about movement. The game starts off feeling as though it would come straight out of an average horror movie that you would see on cable. Next thing you know, the areas around you start to turn into a nightmare hellscape. These parts of the game shine, really having you go around corners tensed up. Especially during the hospital portion of the game, where the sound design is amazing. You're constantly double checking the rooms you go into, but there will be nothing there. The best example of this is the room where the only thing in it is a glass shattering sound effect. Nothing else, just some glass shattering. Some final praises I have about the gameplay. The items that you can pick up and interact with are distinguishable and colorful. There are a multitude of weapons that you can acquire throughout the game, such as a handgun, a shotgun, and a hunting rifle. They're all used to fend off some of the horrors that you may encounter, like demon children, stranger things, gross-ass caterpillar, disgusting butterfly, nurse, man, dog, pterodactyl, and man hopping around on all fours. All enemies have a varying degree of difficulty, the hardest, for me, being the pterodactyls. The The gameplay on paper sounds great, especially for a title on the PSX. But once you add tank controls, it is a whole different layer of pain. I tried to change the controls when I went to options, but all I got was a Harry Mason jump scare. Hey man. At first I thought that the CGI looked terrible. Then I remembered the time frame the game was released in and how one man worked on it all. Suddenly the cutscenes looked beautiful, especially the character animations. Let's not forget, I am talking about a horror game. So let me go over how technically cool everything is. I can't remember there being that many jump scares in this game, besides maybe like one. The job of a good horror game isn't to make the player jump out of their skin every second, because eventually you would just become desensitized to everything. A good horror game keeps the player tense, makes it so that the player doesn't want to go to the next room, either because they can't afford losing any more health, or because they don't know what is in the next room. I must say, especially for a game in 1999, Silent Hill does this immaculately. Every time you think you're starting to get too desensitized to the horror levels, you then get a portion of the game where you walk around the foggy town, and it's back to Silent Hilling. Most of the mood in the game is carried by the sound design and this is common knowledge. You can't put happy, cheery music over scary portions of a game because then people will be taken out of the experience. Most likely they'll be laughing extremely hard. I know I would. I am glad to announce that the music done in Silent Hill really sets the mood for the area. This is good if you are stupid and don't recognize that the setting you are in is not safe. During the quiet moments too, the music adds to the mood so that the player can enjoy the quiet stuff before they are thrown back into the most intense room they've ever seen. The music is all composed by Akira Yamaoka, and he does a fantastic job of elevating the best moments of Silent Hill. The intro and credit music are also very fun, mostly because the credits are accompanied by some silly sitcom character cards. Really appreciate that the developers embrace the goofiness of this game. On the topic of goofy, okay, maybe goofy isn't the right word, just simple, with stuff scattered throughout the game that makes you go, ooh, ah. So the story starts with Harry Mason and his daughter Cheryl Mason driving around when suddenly the car crashes. This leads to the events of the game when Harry Mason has to find his daughter and fights through the horrors of the town to get to her. You meet people like Sybil Bennett, Michael Kaufman, Lisa Garland, and Dahlia Gillespie, all of which with varying levels of mystery, with Sybil having the least and Dahlia having the most. I love the cast of characters in this game, on one hand because of the amazing voice lines.
Wait a second, I'm just a tourist. I came here for a vacation.
On the other hand because of how silly they can be at times. Ah, yes, she must be at the school then. By the way, there was no way that Harry Mason would have been able to solve that piano puzzle. Harvard graduates struggle with this puzzle. Okay, this is spoiler territory now, so yeah, stop watching if you want to play Silent Hill. Good? Okay. So Silent Hill is basically a place where people who did bad things go to suffer, plus all the people that are in the town are all connected in some way or another. The sin committed? Child experimentation. This explains a lot about the enemies through the game, such as straight up children, to animals that children can be obsessed with, such as lizards and dogs. In the final act, with the accompaniment of the best camera angle in the game for 2 seconds, more is explained about the characters and the enemies. There's a child room revealed in the hospital with some butterflies on the wall, explaining the butterfly boss and the nurse enemies previously. This portion of the game also explains how a girl by the name of Alessa was used for experiments, with the help of Dahlia and Kaufman. Lisa also helped as a nurse, but did not want to be there, as explained by this one-man act video.
What is it? Still has an unusually high fever. Eyes don't open. Getting a pulse, but just barely breathing.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Side note, Harry's treatment of Lisa throughout the game is hilariously rude. Oh, you're scared of being left alone in this cursed hospital? Bye! Harry is in Silent Hill because his daughter Cheryl combines souls with Alessa, and Sybil is there because she is investigating the town. All this leads to Dahlia summoning the Antichrist, and this is where the multiple endings come in. The bad ending is that Harry died in the car accident at the beginning. The bad plus ending is that Harry doesn't rescue his daughter, but Sybil lives. The good ending is that Harry rescues his daughter, and the good plus ending is Harry saving his daughter and Sybil living. All of the endings are based on events that were optional during the game. game, not to mention the special ending that you can unlock by using the channeling stone in multiple locations. Really love Harry's voice line here. It's the best line in the entire game.
Sorry. Let me ask you, have you seen a little girl around here? Short, black hair.
This game is a fantastic experience. Even almost 24 years later, the mood, the unraveling of the story is all mwah. The more I think about the game, the more I respect what it was doing, giving a horror experience that wasn't only about the fear of the enemies, but fear of the settings, sounds, and enemies, of course. All leads to an experience ahead of its time. Really fun, especially for my easily scared ass. Good game. Would be really cool to see a sequel, but I doubt it.